It's a stunning winter day here in Martinborough. I'm just off to visit Lance, a local winemaker who's doing some really interesting things with some vintage barrels that he's got his hands on. So let's go and find out about that. Lance, how you going?
Oh, hey, bro. Good to see you, man.
You too.
Come and check these out, bro.
Oh my word, would you look at the size of that huge barrel?
No reason we're impressed with it.
Yeah, when are you going to need a bigger cellar, mate?
Oh, we had to expand the dorges just to get them in out.
Oh, yeah.
And then it takes a fair bit of shuffling and a bit of Jenga to move everything out to get these big boys in. But,
Yeah. How heavy are they empty?
That's a good question. I've never picked one out. You know, they roll, like, you know. I don't know what they'd weigh. At best guess somewhere around 300 kilo, maybe.
Wow.
Well, it took 2 men to lift the head out of one of these. So the one in the middle got recouped it fully, so it bands off. A guy called Jürgen came up from Nelson to help us do a proper cooper, one of the few that's left in New Zealand. And you know, it's definitely not a one-man job. They're fairly unruly things, but you know, the timber's, I don't know, it's pushing 50 mil.
And the timber is
Totara.
Yeah.
The kind of thing that you put them in place and you don't have to move them too often.
Yeah. So this is hopefully their final resting place. Is it certain varieties that lend themselves to a smaller barrel and a larger barrel?
There is a difference between fermenting the same juice in a 228 and a 300, but you have to be pretty finely tuned to pick it. But if you jump to a 500, you'll see obvious differences. One of the things about bigger barrels and bigger vessels is that the more juice you have in a barrel, the more calorific load. So as the yeast ferment juice, they'll generate exothermic energy, like heat. And a typical red wine ferment will crest up at over 30 degrees Celsius, giving you opportunity, and that'll fizzle out. That's a ferment curve and temperature lift and drop. Nice thing about wood is that it insulates and holds that warmth in there for a little bit longer, but it can also lead to, and bigger volumes, the same story, too much of that heat.
So how are you monitoring that fluctuation in these?
Well, once you're in, you're all in. It's like, you know, dropping some rapids or something.
Right.
You know, just go with it.
Right.
But once we're in barrel, we're actually wanting to embrace the textural generosity that comes from slightly warmer ferments. You don't put wines in a barrel to do cold fermentation. You put wines in barrel to bring mouthfeel, bring richness, bring texture. At those temperatures, you tend to blow off quite a bit of the overtly aromatic potential of the grape, which in some people's eyes is a negative. And we're actually happy to sacrifice some of that aromatic intensity for texture.
Right.
And that's the trade-off. And if you start with a variety like Sauvignon Blanc, like we use for the Crystal Vale, that's an incredibly aromatic variety. Like the fruit juice just smells of all that passion fruit and punchy flavors. So when something's so abundant in aromatics, in my opinion, best we would blow half of that off, because what you're left with are the bones and the minerals of like the core structure of the wine. And that's, for textural wine drinkers, that's arguably what we're looking for. For my palate, that's where I want to be. Like ultimately, it's for drinking. Aroma's important, but it's not my lead draw card.
These big boys, what's happening inside of these that's so different? So what happens in this?
The gift of wood and well-chosen wood and the spices that can bring aromatically and palate generosity, you know, gifts of like flavors and wood. That was a part of our model. As we evolved in terms of my philosophy and as a winery, we're less about overt shows of oak influence.
Right.
And expensive spice that was important, but had very little to do with our landscape. I was first interested in trying to work with native timbers because I feel like they have a connection to our story, our little islands in the South Pacific. You know, I've never been privy to a wine that's been aged or released from native timber. I actually want neutrality in my wood. Like I was saying earlier, I didn't want imported flavors. I love barrels for their textural gifts. It's like cooking in cast iron or something like that. It has a certain like feel about it. If these were French oak, I'd be very, very happy. If they were Austrian oak, Sauvignon oak, that'd be fine. German, it doesn't matter. The fact that they're native New Zealand timber, it's more about a connection to our landscape and an opportunity to explore something that's entirely unique to the world of wine and flavour from these islands down at the bottom of the Pacific. It's a nice little voyage of discovery to go on, and it's nice to share that with a small market of people that are interested.
Well, speaking of sharing this voyage of discovery, shall we go and have a taste of it?
Yeah, we can do that. Sure. This is the veil that we talked about. So purely in the barrel that we just tasted out of, but prior to the wine it's currently in there. Imagine this if I hadn't fermented it warm, how bloody aromatic it would be, you know.
What am I tasting that's come out of these barrels and the process that's different to a French oak barrel?
At its best, and I see it in the crystal veil,
Which is delicious.
yeah, it drinks all right, doesn't
But
it?
it's disappearing quite quickly.
Sorry, can I go through some water? At its best, I see a tension on the tongue that reminds me. I really like fennel seeds. Like I harvest them wild from the wild fennel and things, but they numb the tongue slightly. You know, anise, licorice, effectively. And for whatever reason, I see a touch of that in this wine. It's subtle. It's super subtle. But I really like that character. I see it sometimes just off topic, not about native barrels, but I see it in Syrah. So in a great vintage of Syrah here in Martinborough, we touch aniseed, we touch fennel seed, we touch licorice. And there's often quite a lot of pepperiness in Syrah. But that tends to be a cooler vintage expression. And my favourite vintages of Syrah, and it's not necessarily a hot climate expression, it's somewhere in between. There's this lovely little licorice thread. It's so fucking delicious. It's like really, really good.
Well, for your good health.
Cheers. Really up to it. Thanks for taking the time.
Well, if you get a chance, come to Martinborough in Cambridge Road and enjoy these organic wines made in barrels that carry with them the history of winemaking in this country. I'll leave a link to their website in the description, and if you've got a story that you'd like to share, please get in touch. Until next time, bye.